when we have something in slope-intercept form, you need to memorize that that's what that means. When I have y equals mx plus b, that is slope-intercept form. And the reason it's called that is because this is the slope and this is the y-intercept right there, right? Those are things that you guys have studied already, a lot of. Now, what if I give you an equation that looks like this first example? I think you guys had one on yesterday's note page, and some of you tried to work it, and I said, no, don't do that one yet. Remember that problem? Well, there was a reason. Because the only way you can look at an equation and tell what this slope is if it's in this form. You cannot look at this and tell me the slope is 1. Even though, well, that's the number by the x, isn't it? There's a problem. This is not in the correct form. The y has to be by itself before you can tell me what the slope is. Okay? So we're going to practice today on how to solve this equation so that y is by itself. Now, have y'all done some equation solving? Yes, you have. So this is a little different because there are 2 letters involved. Have y'all ever solved equations when there was 2 letters? No. Okay, well, here's what you're going to do. Draw yourself a line like you always have.
Oh, yeah, we have.
You've done that. Now remember, what are we trying to get by itself?
Y.
Y. So write yourself a note. Get y
We done this.
by itself.
Yeah.
Good, because this is an important skill. You must have y by itself to be able to tell what the slope is and what the y-intercept is. So what is with this y that I don't want?
The 1. Wait,
The x and the minus, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's first talk about the x. Doesn't this x have an invisible 1 in front of it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And isn't that a positive 1?
Mm-hmm.
How do you get rid of something that's adding? This
By
is
subtracting.
adding 1x by doing what? Subtracting. So notice what I'm going to subtract. I'm going to subtract 1x. Notice I'm not only subtracting 1, I'm also subtracting that x. All of that's got to be out of the way. Now what happens when I do positive 1x minus 1x?
It makes x.
It's gone. It's 0. Right? Now here's the thing that a lot of students forget. Isn't this a negative 1y right here?
Yes.
Bring all of that down. The negative and the y have to come down. Now, here's another thing. Can I add x's and numbers that don't have x's?
No.
No. Those are considered unlike terms. Have you learned about unlike terms?
Sure.
Sure. So, you cannot do 1 minus 1 and get 0 right here. That won't work. Here's what you need to write. Bring down your x. Bring down your 1. Why did I do it in that order? Because I want it to look like this one. Doesn't the x come before this one? In this equation, my x comes before my constant. So notice what I brought down my negative 1x first. Then I brought down my positive 1. It's starting to look like that, isn't it? Now, what is with the y that I need to get rid of?
-1.
And what's it doing to y? When it's bumping, what's that mean?
Multiplication.
Multiply. So what's the opposite of multiply?
Divide.
Divide. Now last year, did she tell you to
Yes.
divide all the way across?
Yes.
Like so?
Yes.
You've got to divide every single term by -1. I hope you're writing yourself some good notes so you can see how to do this in the future. What's -1 divided by -1?
When?
Positive 1. And remember that 1 in front of that y is invisible. You don't have to write it. Equals. What's -1 divided by -1 here?
1.
Positive 1x. And what's positive 1 divided by -1?
1.
What kind of 1? Negative. If you're not sure, type it in your calculator. Positive 1 divided by -1 is going to be a -1. Notice now, isn't my equation
Y
in this form? Y is equal to something times x plus or minus something. Yeah. Now, what would my slope be on this problem?
1.
X.
Does everybody agree with the number beside the x is your slope? So my slope is 1. What is my y-intercept?
-1.
-1, the number at the back. This number that's not multiplied by the x. That's your y-intercept. You guys already knew that part. You should have. That's what they want us to do. Rewrite each of the following in slope-intercept form and then indicate the slope and the y-intercept. So these are the 3 things that they're asking for in this case. Now, do y'all recall doing those exact kind?
No.
A little different? A little different. Okay, so let's talk about another situation you might see. Here's example B. In this case, what do we want to get by itself? Y. We want y by itself on the one side. Normally, we like the y to be on the left side. So let's see. What is added or subtracted to this 3y?
-2.
Yeah, that -2x is the first thing I'm going to remove. So what's the opposite of subtracting 2 x's? Adding 2 x's. So you're going to write that. Add 2 x's on both sides. Whatever you do one side, you have to do to the other. These cancel to 0. What do I need to bring down?
-3y.
Very good. Don't forget the negative. That 3 is a negative number. Now, which one should I bring down first? Because I can't add 6 plus 2x. So which one do I write first?
6.
Which one is the x value?
2.
The 2x. That's the one I need to write first. Because I want it in this form. I want whatever is written beside the x to be written first. And then what do I do with this 6? What kind of 6 is it?
Positive.
So I need to put a plus 6, don't I? That's a positive 6. So I need to write a positive 6. I'm just bringing those down. Now what's with y that I need to get rid of?
-3.
And it's doing what?
Subtracting.
It's bumping.
Oh, they're multiplied, so you gotta divide.
Yeah, if it's, see how it's bumping against that y? That means it's multiplied. So if it's multiplied times y, we need to divide by it. And notice I'm not only dividing by 3, I'm also dividing by negative. I have to divide by both. Now the nice thing is, -3 divided by -3
Is what?
is 1y, which is what we want. We want 1y by itself. What about 2 divided by -3? Is that going to come out even?
So,
No.
So let's just leave it alone. Haven't you guys learned that slope is usually a fraction? Yeah, we know that it's usually rise over run. So isn't -2/3 like having a y over a run? I mean, a rise over a run? Now, you can put the negative with the 3, or you can put it with the 2, or you can put it right out in the front. Doesn't matter. What's positive 6 divided by -3?
-3.
Close.
-2.
-2. This is division, isn't it? So make sure you divide. Now do I have it in slope-intercept form?
Yes.
Y is by itself.
Yes.
I have a number multiplied by x. That's my slope. So there's your slope, -2/3. And the other number by itself, -2, is my y-intercept. It's my beginning point. So notice, didn't we basically do both those problems the same way?
Yes.
Didn't we start by getting rid of the x and getting it over to the other side? So that the x and the constant are together on one side and the y is by itself on the other. That's what you're shooting for on these problems. Every time. Alright? So let me scroll down a little bit here. Alright, now let's look at this one. Isn't it pretty much the same as what we started with on these other two? I mean, you've got something x and something y, and it's equal to a number. So we're going to solve this pretty much the same way. How are we going to get rid of this positive 1x?
-1x.
Minus 1x. Minus 1x. That cancels to 0. Bring down your -3y. What do I bring down first?
-1x.
Yes, because I want my x written first. And what kind of 12 is that? Positive, so I'm going to write plus 12 behind it. Now I have to say, okay, what's being done to y here?
Divided by 3.
It's being multiplied, so I'm going to divide by -3. You're right. -3 all the way across. Every single number has to be divided by -3. So this one's going to cancel to 1y, which is what we want it to do. What is this going to be?
Just do -1/3.
Put -1/3. Put -1 over -3 in your calculator.
Positive.
1/3.
Yeah. Doesn't it come out to positive?
Yes.
Well, here's the thing. 1/3 is not going to divide out equally, is it? 1 divided by 3 is going to be 0.333333333. That is a terrible number to use. So we need to leave 1/3 like it is, don't we?
Positive or negative?
But which is it?
Positive. Because negative is positive.
Correct. If you don't know that a negative divided by a negative is a positive, you need to type that in your calculator. -1 over -3. I would use my alpha menu. And when you press enter, doesn't it say the answer is 1/3?
Y equals 1/3
X.
x -4.
Why is that one negative, Kivandre? Why is that one negative? It
There's
is.
a positive and a negative equals a negative.
Divided, that's right. When you take a positive and divide it by a negative, you're going to get a negative. Now, here's the step right here. This step right here to right here causes a lot of trouble. I have a lot of kids who try to do 12 minus 1. You cannot do 12 minus 1 because the 1 has an x. You can't do those. Those are not like terms. So that causes a lot of trouble. Here's the rest of my answer. Don't forget you have to answer it with slope and y-intercept. What's the slope?
1/3.
1/3. Good. And what's the y-intercept?
-4.
-4. Now, D is even nicer because there's only one thing with y that I need to get rid of. Do you see that? Y is nearly by itself, isn't it? What is being done to that y that I need to get rid of?
It's being multiplied.
It's being multiplied. Isn't that 2 bumping against it? The 2 is what I need to get rid of. So 2 times needs to be changed into, what's the opposite of times?
Divide.
Divide. Don't try to add to get rid of it or subtract. I have to divide to get rid of it because it's multiplied. So notice I'm dividing 2 all the way across, just like I did on this step right here. Same thing. All right, so what do I get? Y equals, what's this come out to?
2.
What kind of 2?
-2.
Yeah, I heard somebody say negative. -4 divided by 2. If you cannot do that in your head, you should be typing that in your calculator to find out what the answer is.
Wait, wouldn't it be -4? I mean, yeah, wouldn't it be -4? Because you're
Not yet. We can do that in a second, but you're right. -8 divided by 2 is -8 divided by 2 is,
-4.
and that's got an x with it, right?
Yes.
Now, here's the thing. Haven't we been trying to write these to where the x is in the front and the constant's in the back?
Yes.
It can be written like this, but it confuses a lot of people. Because in this case, my slope is not -2, is it?
No.
What is my slope?
-4.
Yeah, because haven't you learned that whatever's being multiplied by your x is your slope? So that's why I like to make you write it in this order. So if it would help you,
Y equals -2.
write it in the opposite order. Wouldn't that make it look better?
Yes.
Yes.
That's confusing.
Now you know what your slope is, and now you know what your y-intercept is. You can tell, looking here, you can tell, but if it confuses you, rewrite it and put it in the right order. So that one wasn't so bad because we only had to do one thing to get that y by itself. This one is going to have a whole lot of things we got to do. Part E is got a lot of steps. And of course, it didn't give me enough room. Maybe that'll help. All right, so let's look at this one. Draw your line. Find your y.
2y.
Wow. I have a ton of stuff that I need to do to get this y by itself. What did we do first on this problem? Didn't we get rid of the x first?
Okay.
Look at your problem C. Wasn't the first thing we did subtracting x? Don't zone out on me. I don't see everybody's eyes. Chase, eyes. Wasn't the first thing we did up here subtract x?
Yes, ma'am.
So probably we need to do something to this x here. It's not going to be subtracted though, is it?
Divide.
Well, isn't that subtracting an
So
x?
you gotta add.
If that's subtracting an x, you got to add an x. So add an x over here. You do the opposite of the x. In this case, oops, what is that? In this case, the x was being added because it was a positive one. This one is a negative one, so we're going to do the opposite of that. That cancels. Now bring everything down that you have not used. 1x needs to be written first. And is there really any need to write plus 0? Is plus 0 going to change it? I wouldn't write it. I'd leave it off. 0 plus 1x is 1x. Now, is that in the right form?
No.
What do I need by itself?
Why?
Y. So I still have something here.
Would you add 5?
I would. This multiply is going to be the last thing I get rid of. So notice first I got rid of my x. Now let's get rid of our subtracting 5. How do I do that?
Add 5.
Adding 5. I hope you're writing good steps so you can follow them. Bring down your 2y. Bring down your 1x. Bring down your plus 5. It's starting to look better. Now what's being done to y that I need to get rid of?
Divide by 2.
It's multiplied, so I need to divide. You're right. Let's do dividing by 2 all the way across. Everything on the page has to be divided by 2 there. So that gives me y. What's this going to come out to?
1/2.
I could leave it 1/2, couldn't I? Because don't I need it to be a fraction so that it's a slope? I would leave it a fraction. Because we need fractional numbers for slope. Now, I could do 5 divided by 2, but that's going to give me something that's not even. So I'm going to leave it 5 over 2. 5 over 2. 5 halves does not reduce evenly. It gives you a decimal number. So we don't want that. We want to leave it a fraction. All right, so last of all, tell me my slope.
The slope is 5. Wait, 1/2.
1/2. And what's my y-intercept?
5 over 2.
5 halves.
Good
Good.
beginning.
You're beginning. That's right. So every single one of those problems that we've just done, we solved for y, didn't we? The whole point is you cannot tell what the slope or the y-intercept is until the y is by itself.
There's one more this time.
There's one more. I know. This one's a little different. Do we have any x's in this problem?
No.
No? It's okay. We can still solve for y, can't we?
But first you gotta get rid of your 5.
Let's solve for y by getting rid of our 5. So I'm going to subtract 5. And what is 0 minus 5?
Negative 5.
And y is by itself. This is a special situation. The reason it's special is because the slope is 0.
Yeah, we talked about this with Miss Gilbert yesterday.
When the x goes completely away, that is going to be a special line. Well, it's going to be a line that only crosses the y-axis. See this y here? It's only going to cross the y-axis down here at -5. So it's going to look like that. And what kind of slope does a line like that have?
0 slope.
Yeah, that's why there's not an x. Because the 0 multiplied times the x and canceled it out. Where does it cross the y-axis though?
Negative 5.
Yeah, at -5. It sure does. I would draw a graph so I could see what that looks like. That is a horizontal line that goes through -5. You might want to write yourself a note. Horizontal line. And when it's horizontal,
Pardon the interruption.
It has a slope of
7th and 8th
0.
graders that sold FFA products, if you sold any products with FFA meat order, you need to go to the parking lot closest to the commons. Thank you.
right now, I'm assuming. Well, I'm glad we finished our notes. So
Yeah, me too.
you're probably not going to be back. So
You want us to put up on
yeah, you probably need to take your stuff with you. We're going to be doing an assignment on that. So
Are we doing it?
Jamie.
when you get to Coach Carter, you'll see it. Fine, let me give it to you now. Who all's going?
All of us.
All of us.
Okay.
Everybody? Oh, okay. Let me just send these questions. Okay. Did everybody make an order?
My brother got mine.
Oh,
He said yes, ma'am.
Wow.
I said yes, sir.
It's okay. I will live.
You say yes, mom, or yes, sir?
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Alright, well, let me just hand you one as you go out so you have it when you get to class. You going? Start working.
Yes.
My brother got mine, so I'm good.
Thank you.
People going out the door, take this with you to Coach Johnson's, don't lose it. Don't lose it, take it with you to Coach Johnson's. If you have a cell phone, don't forget it.
I told my senior. I really didn't say anything.
Did you sell meat in FFA?
No.
I don't think you did, okay, you're fine then.
Oh, my God, so.
Okay, you need to stay put then. Just the kids that sold stuff are the ones that are leaving. Are you leaving?
Just say no.
I will bring you a paper when I'm ready for you to have a paper. If you're not leaving, stay put. And don't make faces behind my back. Face me and be a man.
Something back there.
What?
Thank you, Isaiah.
What
Oh,
should I
Isaiah.
go to the
No, you need to stay here and do your math. You were doing fine. You were doing fine.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
Where is your, I thought you had your math.
Tell my senior.
Didn't you have your math with you?
Can you
The
go
one
to
you
the
were doing
bathroom?
just now. The one that Miss Lehman gave you.
I put it in my backpack,
Okay, we'll get it back out, because we're not through yet.
so I could do it later.
Okay, but you can do it now.
How?
What's this?
But I couldn't figure it out.
Well, I'm through talking now, so I can help you.
Go ask Miss Lehman.
Okay, you
later.
can do that. Here, take
Hang on.
this pen.
What was yours?
Yeah,
You
next
may.
one. Next is hold.
Alright, so notice that the title of the lesson is the same as what we just did, and the first 10 problems are exactly the same as what we just did. You are not going to do the stuff on the back. You can mark 11 through 18 out, but I wouldn't mark out the answer bank. Because there's an answer bank back there that's going to help you check your answers. So if you do, when you do number 1, go to the back and see if you find the slope and the y-intercept that you chose. If you don't, you need to ask for some help, because you obviously got the wrong answer.